Welcome everyone to episode 48 of Thrashcast. My name is Ken, and tonight I'm with my buddies, both Bill and Jimmy. And how are you guys doing today?
Oh, good.
Awesome. Wicked. All right. So before we get into our major topic of the evening, we'll just give a little bit of housekeeping items to go through with you guys. Our podcast, of course, Thrashcast, you can find it at the website, www.horrormetalsounds.com. You can also access the podcast on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, and you can check us out on Spotify and on Rumble. So we're in a few places now. And it's good that people can find us. All we ask is if you're wherever you're catching us, please leave us a comment, a like, even, subscribe. We appreciate all that. Again, it helps the algorithm, so we do appreciate all the love and support that we get for the podcast. It's growing every week. We are now over 614 subscribers, so it's
Nice.
growing. And last week, I think we gained about 25 to 30 new subs, which is fantastic. So we're very, very happy with that, and we'll just want to keep climbing and climbing and climbing. And as Jim said, we wanted to reach 1,000, reach 1,000 in a
That's
short
okay.
time. But we're getting there,
Yeah.
We're slowly getting there. All right, so tonight we're going to be covering Metallica, Master of Puppets, the one of the greatest thrash metal albums of all time for lots of people. I know a lot of people our age will have a lot to say about it, so we're looking forward to that discussion. It's also good timing because Master just turned 39 on March the 3rd,
Yep.
which is like, I can't believe how time flies. 39, holy smokes. And then next year it'll be the big 4-0, which is pretty amazing. So it's great. It's also timed just at my birthday, which is on Saturday. So I kind of I can celebrate my birthday, celebrate the album, and I get to talk about an album which is pretty much my favorite Metallica album ever. So I'm looking forward to that. So before we begin the other questions and the deep dive, let's talk about our usual first opening segment for news and spinning. And Jimmy, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, just a quick news. I mean, it's so cool that it's 39 years for this
Yeah.
album. I mean, holy
Oh yeah.
Jesus, that's pretty amazing. And
Yeah, right.
and does it ever hold up? But just a quick news item I thought was kind of funny. Like I know we're not necessarily total fans, but Ghost released a new single
I
at
saw that.
midnight 2 nights ago,
Yeah.
and they've got 1.9 million views in
Yeah.
about just over 24 hours, almost 48 hours. Like they had 701,000 views in 12 hours. I mean, holy Jesus, like what a fan base. I mean, you can criticize. It's kind of a poppy single. It's called Satanized. It looks like sanitized when you look at it, from the upcoming album Skeleton that's coming out in April. But man, you can Tobias, you can really criticize the whole musical direction of it, but the guy's kind of a genius when he breaks it down. I mean, he knows what he's going after, regardless of whether you like it or not. I mean, this guy sets it up with all the merch and everything else, and
Yeah.
an upcoming tour, and
Yeah.
breaking out the new. I mean, I don't know how it all works with the head guy who's him, but just the way he breaks it out with his fans. I mean, holy shit! It's just it's an event, and have it kind of a pseudo metal event. And these days, the song's pretty poppy, but it's kind of catchy, and
Yeah. It's all right.
whatever.
It's funny. Most people think they will be the only band who will be able, fan-wise, to replace Metallica when they step down.
Yeah.
I mean, regardless of whether I mean, I don't like their music at all.
I don't either.
But they're the only ones who are popular enough to even have a chance to do Metallica numbers in the metal scene.
Yeah, that's
I
amazing.
can't get into them at all. I've
Yeah,
tried.
me neither.
I just don't. I have a lot of friends of mine who love this band and go to every show, but they don't resonate with me for whatever reason.
Yeah, I'm the same.
Yeah.
I picked up their last album. I mean, it's pretty poppy. Like, I watched an interview with Tobias Forge talking about it being death metal. I mean, like, give me a break here. Yeah. I don't know, just because he has upside down crosses or whatever, he dresses up. But no, this is, I mean, it's pretty poppy stuff, and it's pretty accessible. I mean, that's where he's coming from with this. I don't know much about like the discography going backwards, other than the fact that I did pick up their last album, and it's just, again, it's kind of poppy. I guess you like it or you don't like it or whatever, but I mean, the shtick with it is pretty impressive. Like, I'm just like, holy jeez, this guy thinks of it all. I mean, I think over the summer he had a movie, and
yep, the movie came out.
Yeah, it's just one thing after another, selling lunch boxes. Holy jeez,
Well, they're like the Kiss. They're like the new version.
Yes,
of Kiss now.
actually, that's a good point. Yeah,
because they're doing the same thing. Everything is like brand merchandising. They do it. You name it, they're doing it too.
Yeah. And I think I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they're playing stadiums.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like full size, like not like a football stadium, but a hockey stadium.
Yep.
Yeah. There's not metal bands who could do that, except for the old guys like Maiden and Metallica.
Yeah,
pretty much. I think they're like the only two.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Priest can't do it anymore.
No.
No.
They Priest plays like large places. It's still got like 30% tickets left. The day it's happening, and that.
Yeah.
So, but what I'm spinning, I picked up I got the new Avantasia album.
Oh, I got
Dragons.
That too. Yeah.
It's pretty cool. Again, this is kind of poppy as well in some cases, but some great guests on it with Tiskay. You've got you got Ronnie Atkins, you've got Jeff Tate. You got some good stuff on here, but I've read a lot online. A lot of people are saying it kind of loses its oomph after a little while, but I mean, I really like Avantasia. I was able to, Billy set me up with, to buy some direct stuff through Nuclear Blast. So I kind of brought in a whole bunch of stuff. I managed to pick up their other CD, The Mystery of Time, which is actually pretty cool. It's actually got Biff Byford from Saxon on it. So that's kind of neat. I also picked up the new Robin McCauley Soulbound album. That's really, really good.
You like it?
Kind of a good heavy rock / maybe kind of metal-y type thing. I really like it. And then to round things out, I got a couple of good thrash ones. Picked up Overkill, The Grinding Wheel. Wicked album.
Yeah.
Kind of a collection to fill my collection. And I also got the latest Municipal Waste one, which I never picked up.
I love that cover.
Oh, it's a wicked album, and I love the cover. Yeah. Pretty cool. Nice. So there's some good stuff on there, and but this Avantasia one's got kind of an interesting one on it. No, it's not that one. It was a different one I got. Had a cover on it for a Falco cover, but I think that was Ed Guy. So, but anyways, no, some new stuff, some good stuff, and Billy, thanks for the tip, because I think I broke it down with shipping. These came in under $16 a CD, which delivered to my door. In this day and age, perfect. So the Valentine's Day sale was amazing.
So Jim, you got to get ready, because the sale will knock your socks off for Black Friday sale.
Okay, cool.
So in November they go crazy, right? They put everything on sale.
Nice,
perfect.
So
like I'm gonna go. I wish I would have now, like you said. I think I jumped the gun too quick and placed my order too quick. I should have let it marinate for 24 hours.
Yeah.
I think I would have got another 10 things, because going through the website's really cool, because you can go through every band alphabetically, and it's like, oh geez, I didn't know. I forgot they were on there. I forgot like Testament's even on there, which was kind of cool. I didn't need any of their stuff, but that's pretty neat. A lot of great bands.
Nice. Cool.
And that's what I got, guys.
Okay.
Nice.
How about you, Billy?
A couple news items. So Ken, were you going to cover the Testament tour, or?
You can go for it if you want. Go for it.
Oh no, if you have it, I'll skip it then. Okay. I had a couple things here. So we obviously didn't talk about who's doing what news item. I don't know if you were going to do the Exodus, but I'll go.
No, I wasn't. Go for it.
So pretty much at the same time Testament is touring, Exodus is going out with a really odd lineup, right? So with Deicide. So I rack my mind. I've been watching like Exodus since the 80s. I don't ever remember them touring with a death metal band before.
No.
No,
I
I don't
guess
think
trying
so.
to broaden the audience, maybe. Um,
Good.
but yeah, tour runs April 27th to May 17th, US only. Pretty much overlaps like with the Testament tour that you'll talk about, Ken. And they're
Mhm.
both funny because they're both mini tours. They're like a
That's
month,
right.
very limited. So I guess they'll do some other dates. I don't know. Another item on the death metal front, I was reading Entombed are back in the studio. So that's
Really?
pretty cool. They have the original two guitarists and the drummer. And so they're there recording. I don't know who would be singing on it.
Oh,
They have a new bass player with them. And they even pulled out that famous like PV amp that
Oh
they
yeah.
for Left Hand Path for this
neat.
recording. So that's very promising. They posted pics from the studio this week. Well, I don't remember, one day this week. So if you go up and look up Entombed, you'll get all the updates. So
Well,
uh,
I'll check that out because I didn't know that.
yeah, I know that'd be awesome. Like I only saw that today, just when I was randomly
Interesting.
flipping through stuff.
Okay.
Um, I'm wood spinning, so I have from Canada. The
Oh,
I've
nice.
been waiting for this. Finally got it last week. So the new, I think we've talked about this before for sure, and we had Gus on in an earlier episode. But yeah, Volume 6, easy contender for thrash metal album
Yeah.
uh,
Oh,
uh,
easily.
the year.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sure you guys agree with me.
Yep.
Uh,
100%.
and then just because Jim was talking and uh, ordering Avantasia, and then Ken, you picked it up. So it made me think, well, I got to go back to the OG.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
so this
Woo!
is the original one. This thing is where it all started, the original metal opera. And then, of course, all the power metal bands copied them after, and there were 100 metal opera
Yeah.
things going on. But yeah, this is really cool. I highly recommend folks get this one. You know, all the new ones are cool too. This one
Mhm.
also has a bit of a heavier edge too. So I think that's kind of cool. And then the other thing, also in the power metal mode, probably my second favorite power metal album of all time. Not well known over here. This is Heaven's Gate,
Oh
Oh,
Led
yeah.
yeah. That
Hysteria.
one.
Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
not only is it a cool album cover, but these guys can write killer songs. Like, I think it's the equivalent of Halloween and Gamma Ray any time of the day. But they really only have like two, three albums, and it's really just this first one that's a complete masterpiece. But also on guitar here is a guitarist named Sasha Path. And he appears on every Avantasia album. He records, he produces, he sings, he plays, but he also pretty much either produces, mixes, plays on pretty much every major power metal band all through the 90s, right up to today. He's basically the god of recording like power metal, Sasha Path. Everybody uses him. So, yeah, so that's what I got. But again, I can't recommend this enough. If you want like power metal, I don't even know how you'd
Nice.
find it nowadays. You'd have to probably get a copy from Europe, but it's just brilliant songwriting. Everything's catchy as hell.
Nice. Cool. Yeah, I like that cover. It's really nice.
Yeah, it's a cool cover.
Yeah, yeah. Cool. Okay, so there's a couple of items that I just recently found out. So Megadeth apparently are going into a partnership with Frontiers Records. They're gonna be releasing their latest album coming out under the new imprint that they're forming with Frontier. So that should be kind of interesting. The point of the imprint is it's supposed to be producing music that is kind of bold and pushes the boundaries of heavy metal. But I don't know if Megadeth does that nowadays, but that's just the way that it's being termed. And so Dave was talking about the new record, and he's talking about Timo, the new guitarist, and he basically says that this guy is the real deal, and he's now made Megadeth a band again. So I'm
He
assuming
says
that
that every time.
I know he does, I know, but I think he's personally slagging Kiko because I know
Kiko, yeah.
they're not on good terms. He did say though that he did go on and say that he thanked Kiko for introducing Timo to the band, and he was saying that Timo is going to be like really really in on the songwriting and yada yada. You know, Dave, yada yada yada. It's all the same shit coming
Yeah.
out of this mouth. So we'll see. We'll have to wait and see. And then the other news item that Billy mentioned, and that was Testament. Of course, they're going to be going on a mini tour as well around the same time that Exodus is. This is in support of the 35th anniversary to Practice What You Preach, one of my favorite Testament albums ever. These dates start April 30th and they run right into May 25th. So it's 15 dates in the States only, which is kind of shitty. I think they're calling it an evening with Testament. So that should be pretty cool. I wish it was coming here.
But Ken, it's got to be a phase 1, right? There'll be a phase 2 and a phase 3 right
That's
after.
what I think.
Yeah. While I was reading about it, they didn't mention it, but you're probably right, Billy. I'm assuming it will be.
Yeah.
You're right.
I bet they're testing the waters. Like, you think about it, you do say 15 dates to see what what the reception's like.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they'll always sell, but the one thing, they're actually playing that album from beginning to end.
Oh, that would be wicked.
So that might be what's worrying them, right? Maybe that won't draw as much. I don't know. I mean, that's why I would go, just because they're playing every song.
Yeah, me too. I would love to. I would love to go. But
I mean, also too, I mean, there's such competition out there, and Testament's been through like Toronto, 3 times in the last 2 years, or at least twice.
Like
But they've been touring nonstop, right?
Oh,
they're probably hitting every city equally multiple times.
That's true.
If there's a money to be made, Testament know how to do it.
Yeah, that's what you got to be like.
And the new album is coming out later in the summer, so I mean, they'll be out on the tour cycle with that as well, most likely, when it does finally come out. So, but yeah, that's a cool tour. I wish I could see it. I would love to.
Yeah, me too.
I would love to go to that. It's my favorite album. They're going to play every song. You can't go wrong with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seriously.
The more I think about it, that Jim mentioned that this might be a trial, right?
Yeah.
To see, like, obviously the last tour they played they've been playing all the songs from the first 2 albums.
Yeah. That's right.
But those are proven classics, right? You do get, although I think all 3 of us love
Practice.
There's a lot of fans that complain, like, starting with that album.
Really? Oh,
yeah.
I love that album.
The amount of times I see that ranked at the bottom of rankings by like diehard, but it's the people who only like want the super heavy stuff, right? Like, so.
Yeah, like the first 2 albums, basically.
Yeah, like their first 2 albums is their number 1 and 2, and that never comes close.
That's insane. That album is so good.
Yeah.
It's so damn good. I can't.
Billy, so Heaven's Gate is $45 used on Amazon.
Ooh.
Okay.
Per CD.
Yeah.
It's not bad.
I've been searching for the vinyl since the 90s and no luck. I know there's some in Europe, but I always try to find it when I go out there and never do.
$45. Wow.
It's all out of print. It's never been reprinted.
Yeah, usually when it's out of print, everything. Like good luck finding a copy of Cold Lake. I know Jim was looking for that before.
Yeah. And there's another one, a 1-disc version that's $95.
Well, that's the one I showed. That's the original.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense because it's never been printed again after that.
Yeah.
Well, that would be worth getting.
You're making me want it.
Yeah. Spend $100
to it online. I think you'll love.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Wicked. All right, so that's all I have for this week. So
cool.
I guess what we'll do now is we'll get into the questions that I found. I found some interesting ones, and I want to definitely get and get your opinions on. The first one that I really want to get your opinions on is what do you think how this album would have went if they had their original producer Geddy Lee, which they were working with, which I know Lars was talking to Geddy about producing, but they could never get the schedules to line up. So ultimately they end up going back to Fleming. What do you guys think that would have sounded like? Billy, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. So yeah, like I know Lars talks about it way more
Mm.
than Geddy does.
Yeah.
Geddy basically he didn't disagree with Lars, but he didn't sound like it was as far as along as Lars makes it out to be. I
Yeah.
mean, Geddy basically said a friend introduced them and they talked about it.
Okay.
But he said they didn't even have time to do like another meeting, let alone time to produce the album. But yeah, I mean, obviously it would sound completely different. I think it'd be a huge mistake. I mean, this is 1986. I mean,
Yeah.
Rush is not even doing hard rock anymore, right?
No.
They've replaced the guitar with synths. But just before this album, they did Power Windows, and pretty much a few months later they did Hold Your Fire.
I
Right,
love
their
that album.
most pop albums. Like so, Getty stepping in, and in that same interview where Getty said he met them, he also said he doesn't like heavy metal.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
and so it would have been like thrash, right? Like, so how the hell would he have pulled that? It would have been a complete mess. Like, I think Fleming should have did it. He did the previous. He
Yeah.
knows the band. They could build on the success, and obviously it was the right choice. Like, there's just Getty has zero experience with anything thrash, and I love Rush. It's one of my
Yeah.
favorite bands of
Yeah,
all
me too.
time. But like that just makes no sense, right? Like to have Geddy Lee produce your album, like
Well,
I don't get it.
I wonder if maybe the thought was from Lars' perspective that they were looking to go a bit more progressive. So they maybe thought that he might fill the void or put them in that direction. I don't know. That's just maybe
But to
where I'm.
even compare Master to the progressiveness of Rush is like not even
I
in the
know.
same universe.
Yeah.
I know. I
Like
know.
they
I
would,
know.
Getty would have dragged them down a path like nothing, like we actually got.
True, true.
Right? If they wanted his input on progressiveness, man, it would have sounded nothing like Master.
Yeah. I mean, I'm only guessing. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, no, I don't know
I
either.
just thought it was an interesting
Yeah, no, it
kind
is.
of what
Yeah,
if scenario. What
yeah,
would have happened
Yeah.
if he did?
yeah.
What about you, Jim? What's your thoughts on it?
I see. I liked the synth era of Rush too. I think Hold Your Fire gets a lot of flack, but I saw them on that tour, and I really really like that album. But yeah, I mean, this people complain about the production and the sound of this album, but man,
Mhm.
I don't care what anybody says. In my 1985 or 86 Ford Escort, this thing beat my speakers to death,
Oh,
and
fuck
I
yeah.
don't care. I mean, for the time this was, but I think it was more along the lines that they were such Rush fans. I mean, Cliff and Lars, that I think maybe they wanted like that attachment, maybe more so than the route they wanted to take, because I think this album just, I mean, the writing, the music, the musical, the musicianship of the album is spot on thrash. I mean, this is one of the best heavy metal albums of all time. I mean, my favorite Metallica albums, Kill 'Em All, but that's for different reasons. I can totally admit this is probably this is a better album. It's better
Mm.
produced, and it's a more mature album for them, as opposed to their debut. The debut for me is a little bit more. It was my first one I got. I remember listening to them for the first time, and that hunger and that sound. But you get this on this album as well. I mean, they were still like they were 3 albums in, and they were just starting to headline pretty much,
Yeah.
and doing that on their own and that. And but yeah, I agree with Billy. I think it probably would have been a big mistake. I don't think at this point in time they could experiment. We wanted front
No.
on thrash metal. These guys are pretty much the godfathers of thrash metal. So
Pretty much.
I think the experimentation, well, we saw what happened in the 90s, but I'm so glad it just went the way it did.
True,
Yeah.
true.
Yeah. And I'm a huge Rush fan. I love Rush.
Yeah,
Love
same
Geddy
here.
Lee.
I love Rush too. So we're going to stick with you on the second question, Jim. So
Sure.
I know when they finished recording the album, they didn't release a single or a video. All they
Yeah, I
did was
love it.
decide, yeah, which is smart, I guess, to some degree. But I guess my question is, so they decide just to go out on a quick jaunt 5-month tour with Ozzy, supporting Ozzy, without any other support, like no video, no nothing, and they just wanted to do that. Do you think that helped contribute to the success of them, or you think that was detrimental?
Oh no, I think it helped. I think the Aussie tour really cut their teeth into, like, I know Lars wrote, I saw an interview with him where he talked about the A stadiums, like the A cities and the B cities. And he said when they went to a lot of the smaller cities and the B cities, people went for Aussie, but they were driving home Metallica fans. So I think that's what it was all about. I mean, there's stories, and I love Ozzy, but there's stories where Metallica come in for this 45-minute, 50-minute set with an encore and blew them off the stage. I mean, a lot of people say, oh, that Ozzy's and he is. He's, I mean, the Godfather of metal. We know that he's
exactly.
Whatever, Prince of Darkness, but I mean, these guys were up and coming. And I mean, I love the fact they were wearing their Alcoholica t-shirts and they were drinking a lot. And just, man, it was like the old guy leading the new young charge in, the new young guard. And I think that was pretty cool. I think it helped them. I'll be honest. I mean, I love the fact when they in Injustice, when they put out their first video. I mean, I loved it. I mean, I wanted to see these guys. I wanted to see them play. But there is such cool, it was like almost like a phantom where you got to see them in magazines and that. And there was the video of Cliff Amal, which was really cool. That was released. I still have it on VHS. And I remember buying it and freaking out that, we get to see Metallica play and, and that sort of thing. It was so basic and so raw that I was glad they didn't really do a lot of the videos. And that's one of the big things of my disappointment with Bob Rock and the fifth album, the Black Album. Great album, brought Metallica to the masses even farther, but the videos were kind of, it was a lot of videos and that sort of thing. I love the fact, no singles, no videos, no airplay. Boom, and it was all word of mouth. But yeah, those kids in those days, and I know you guys went to the concerts. We talked about that, and you guys were probably driving home just Metallica. I mean, you guys saw the headlines, so even better.
So jazzed about that.
Yeah.
What about you, Billy? What's your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, no, I don't think it hurt them in any way. I mean, that was, I guess, par for the course for them, right? And I mean, you guys probably remember. I think we all said we loved the one video, Justice.
Great.
But you remember the backlash, right? All the people, all the fans screaming, "Sell out!" Like, why are you doing that? And so a lot of people didn't want them to do it, but I personally thought it was brilliant. I also think timing was better when they did one, like 88. And 89 thrash was a little bit more acceptable. Like, like Metallica were already on like a great growth trajectory with every single album. Like this was going to be bigger than Ride the Lightning, which was bigger than Kill 'Em All. You had the underground tape traders like were there for Metallica. All the college radio was playing them. There was plenty of like underground promotion. And like I'm not sure in 86 if there was a broader audience for Battery, if they had a music video, right? Like I think there was still more in the hard rock traditional metal. Like I think in 88, 89, like you had all the bands, the videos really kicked off, but I think they had already brought in their audience by that point. So yeah, I don't think 86 would have made a big difference for them. And the other thing is, what the hell would you release? Half the songs are 8 minutes. They're way too heavy. They're way too fast. I mean, I guess they could do with what they did with one, right? Like, which is the biggest shame of the video. They cut out the best part. Right. The huge instrumental section that I love so much. So,
but
I don't think it hurt them because of the time, really.
You said it best though, like, and think about one though. They put so much thought into it. They did pretty much a movie soundtrack to a movie that wasn't even, nobody even knew hardly the movie. And I thought that was genius. It was such a spooky video with such a killer song. And I'm with you, Billy, when they cut it down, like you could buy a video on VHS. I had a 2 of 1, and they had the original version. Then they had the cut down version. The cut down version, I mean, the whole instrumental part is what makes
it sucks.
Yeah.
Well, they were smart though. I mean, you have to think about it. They went to the Dalton Trumbull book, which is a really good book.
Yeah.
Johnny got his gun. And I mean, so they were smart. They were actually smart about it. They weren't just like a bunch you're taking for granted. They're just a bunch of long hairs acting like a bunch of hooligans. They had a plan and
Yeah.
they enacted that plan. So
Oh, yeah.
you got to give them props for that, right?
And it was perfect timing, right?
Yeah.
Metal was like near its peak in like late
Yeah.
88, 89. Like it was just perfect. But on this question, so a question to you guys, what do you think if they were going to do a single, what would have been the best choice?
Oh,
I
Because
hard
they're
to say,
just
dude.
I don't even know what you'd pick. I guess Leper Messiah is the only thing I could rack my brain
I
to
kind of like
say.
Disposable Heroes.
Yeah. But
I
how long
see,
is that? That's like,
at 6 minutes.
yeah. Disposables. I mean, Leper's closer to 5. It's the chorus is probably a little bit catchier.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah. Or maybe
yeah,
damage.
you couldn't do
Damage Inc.
Damage Incorporated
Yeah,
No,
just
because
that's what I
it's,
was gonna say.
no.
I don't know.
I
It's
mean, Master Puppets. Everyone loves that, but
well,
it's
that
8
was
minutes,
that
right?
was the actual single was Master.
Yeah,
But even that was a long song for
yeah. It's
that.
over 8
yeah.
minutes.
Yeah, so I don't know.
Yeah.
It's you got a good point.
But you even
Maybe
think about
it
now,
wasn't. Mhm.
you think about Stranger Things, revived Master of
Yes,
Puppets
yes, for
as a
the
single again, and I love it because it's like, holy shit. I remember watching Stranger Things, and as soon as the guy got up on the thing and started playing it, I was like, fuck, man, Metallica, yeah. And it was like back to being a 15-year-old kid again. I loved it. And
Yeah.
a whole new group of fans just jumped on that, like, whoa, this is awesome.
Well, I mean, Master of Puppets jumped back on the
Yep.
album sale charts, like when
did.
Stranger Things came out.
It
Yep.
did. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Which is
So,
cool. Who cares how it happens, right? Like,
as long as it happens.
get more people. And what a great album, right?
Yeah.
Like you would think if they were going to do that, they would have picked a ballad from the Black Album, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
they went like for vicious thrash.
Yeah.
Like it's very cool.
Yeah.
Good
Very
point.
cool.
So like okay, so the next question is kind of redundant because we're sort of discussing it now, but with their level of heaviness and complexity into thrash metal, how influential do you think this album really is in the genre? I guess we sort of already answered it, but go ahead, Billy. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think for sure, right? Like, that was all there. But I think the single biggest factor isn't so much the complexity or aggressiveness or heaviness. It's actually these guys are just brilliant songwriters.
Yeah.
Every single, I mean, all the songs have a unique identity. I mean, maybe the opener and closer is very similar, but they've really taken the time to craft something that all the songs don't sound the same. From a music perspective, it's hooks everywhere.
Yeah.
Nothing sounds boring. All the 8-minute songs never get tedious. The choruses, it's just these guys write killer songs, and nobody was better in my opinion. Like I love Slayer, but they never wrote a song as catchy or as good as Master of Puppets.
That's true. Good
Right?
point.
Like these guys just wrote the songs. The complexity was great. You're right, Ken. I loved it. I love the direction they were going in, especially with Injustice being my favorite album. But yeah, I think the bottom line is they just wrote better songs than anyone else in metal.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And to lead on that, I think you got the album artwork that kind of puts just such a great, I mean, what a killer logo. But I think the biggest thing, besides the musicianship and the writing that was just spot on for the time, and is that these guys look like us going to shows. So, I love that. The guys just looked like regular guys, drank beer, loved to play hard, heavy music, and just kicked ass. They weren't wearing lipstick and driving around in fast cars and putting on that whole shtick of what was going on at the other part of the heavy metal movement at the time, and it was such a breath of fresh air. And and I love the fact when they're, accepting their awards and stuff, they're always like I think Lars said it on the time when the Black Album won the year later after Jethro Tull, and said like, we're the band that nobody wants to play us. We get no airplay. We get no video play. Well, they did on the Black Album before that. And it was or Injustice. And there was just like, holy shit, he's right. I mean, they didn't get anything, but they still dominated. And I think that just puts so much emphasis on the music, the lyrics, the speed, the heaviness, and the whole package. It's almost like they thought this from A to Z, and they just filled in all the blanks.
Well, you know, it's funny when they came to Toronto in '85 at the concert hall for Ride the Lightning. I didn't see the show, but I had people telling me that they were insane on the stage. Just like a concert hall is not very big, so they're there doing their thing, and people were just awestruck by just how the energy and how wild they were. So it's like I was pumped when Master came out and I saw that tour. I was like, it blew me away, and like I couldn't fathom it. It's like, wow, these guys got something.
I guess that goes back to your other question, Ken, about singles, right? Because they were playing a small little like theater,
True.
and then when you saw them, they were playing a hockey arena for match,
Yeah. Maple
right?
Park.
And that's a pretty short period of time.
Yeah.
It's true. It's true. So yeah, so their success, I guess, in a way, is they did parlay that success fairly quickly to some degree. Also, then the other question I wanted to ask is, what do you think of Cliff Burton's contributions to the album? Obviously, he has sort of a kind of a classical background training, and he did have some say on the arrangements and the compositions, which obviously the songs do benefit from his training. What do you guys think about that, Jim?
Oh, I mean, he's a friggin' genius. I think the albums leading up to this, and even parts of the next album after this. I mean, Orion, which I know they don't like to play live that often.
No.
But I think it's the underrated. I mean, we're going to talk about the songs, but an underrated song on this album. It's just he kind of brings that classical part of it, that more structured part, but more chaotic as well, because he's a huge punk fan and a huge hard rock fan, and he's just
Bowie fan. He's a big Bowie
they
fan
each one of them brought kind of a different thing to it. And I'm a huge Dave Mustaine fan, but the way Dave was going and the way Metallica was going, I think it would have never worked anyways. And with Dave being, obviously the lead guitarist for the, originally and going in that way. So, but no, and then it makes me wonder, that if he didn't pass away tragically, where they would have gone after Justice and into the Black Album and then into the 90s. What would have happened? Because I know, you had James and Lars seem to be the really aggressive driving force after this. And he had a big part in it up until, and I think maybe we would have seen some different stuff. I'm getting off in a rabbit hole here, but I just, no, he's phenomenal on this album. And I think he's great. And he's kind of almost the glue to some degree.
Well, yeah, because, and I know I've mentioned this before, but they looked up to him because he was a little bit older and he seemed to have his shit together more so than they did. Like he stuck by his convictions. And I know that he used to get ribbed a lot for the bell bottoms because why the fuck are you wearing bell bottoms? Who's wearing bell bottoms in the 80s?
Yeah.
But he was like, I'm my own man and I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I know that in a lot of ways he was like the unofficial leader of the band.
And you know what? Then the Misfits owe a ton of royalties to this guy.
Absolutely. Because he wore their shirts on stage. Yeah.
And the first thing is, when I was a kid, I got into the Misfits through Cliff, because I was like, what is this? What is this? Yeah.
Yeah. Same here. I'm with you on that. So what do you think, Billy?
I think he brings some of that. I definitely, when I go to my initial descriptors of the album, like classical is not one of them.
No.
But you are right. Like there's definitely some, so where you go, you go to the intro, a battery.
Yeah.
Right.
Definitely has a classical type feel. Even maybe the intro to Damage Incorporated.
Yeah.
But then you have and I never know, is it Orion or Orion? I don't know what it is, but that song itself has many of the features of a full-on classical piece, right? It has the dynamics of the calm low parts and the crescendo towards the end of the heavier. It's very much follows like a pattern of an orchestral piece. So those are probably the three places I see that influence the most.
Yeah, he's great. I mean, it was a tragic loss, but I mean, for what he did on that album, it's fantastic. But okay, so I know I didn't really want to cover much about his death because it's we've talked about it before. I mean,
Yeah.
it's all over. You can Google it, and I mean, it's a shame that he passed away. That's all I can. That's all I can say about it. But so we'll go on to the next question. Question 5, and I like the iconographic of the band, of the image, the cover, the logo, as Jim mentioned a few minutes ago.
Oh,
That's a great logo, and I love how they turned it into stone, so it kind of reflects the crosses underneath. That is
yeah.
so clever. I love it. I like both. I've always been torn between that and Lady Justice because I think they're both kind of like iconic
Oh, yeah.
kind of images, and they both really worked well for the themes of each album. And I mean, Don Brottingham is a fantastic artist. I love his work. He's did Metal Church, The Dark. He did Motley Crue, Dr. Feelgood. He did Among the Living for Anthrax and State of Euphoria. Like he's worked with AC/DC, Ace Frehley, Vicious Rumors. Like he's a really good artist. Unfortunately, he passed away in 2008 from stomach cancer, but his legacy is going to live on in my mind
Mhm.
with the covers that he's done. So we'll start with you, Billy. What do you think of the cover? Do you like this cover a lot?
Yeah, no, I mean, I love it, right? Like
Mhm.
you obviously got the white crosses, and then you've got the strings that are attached to all the crosses
Yeah.
going up to the hands. I mean, like it really is well thought out, well
Yeah.
designed. Like the dark red background suggests, something. I don't know if evil is the word, but it's something in that sense. Like I know the themes of the album are kind of like control and power and
Yes.
manipulation. And
War,
I
drug
mean, from
addiction.
a concept perspective, yeah,
Mhm.
they nailed it with this cover. And
Yeah.
I've said it before, Justice is my favorite album. But and I like the concept of Lady Justice on the
Yeah.
album, but I mean, for me, it doesn't even come close to Master of Puppets.
Yeah.
I just think visually,
Yeah. See,
yeah.
Yeah.
I love
But
it. I just think they're both great, but
yeah, no, they're great. It just visually this. I mean, from a cover side, right? Like Justice is almost all white. The Lady
yes.
Justice is grayish. Like this thing just pops from a mile away.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah.
I had this on like you remember those old in the 80s, those big giant like black flags you'd
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had one of
like
those.
I mean I had that hanging in my room like
Same here.
all through high school and college and university and yeah, I mean, basically the first thing I saw every morning I woke up was this giant flag for like a decade. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. It's cool. What about you, Jim?
Oh, I mean, I absolutely love it. I think what I love about the fact it's almost like kind of a Flanders field take, but it's more overgrown, which kind of signifies to me more of a forgotten thing, which
Yeah.
and control with and I love the fact the helmet and the dog tag hanging there. But yeah, this is just it's absolute classic album art, well thought out, well done, and just I mean the whole album is and this is the first part of it. It's just you've got such killer artwork to go along with it. It's just phenomenal. And it's iconic, you know.
Yep.
It's iconic.
I totally agree. Apparently, the original painting for this cover was actually auctioned in 2008, and it went for 28 grand.
Wow.
Yeah, I know it's like 28 grand. Unfortunately, Don had already passed away, so I'm not sure if it was donated or if like he got the rights back to the cover after it was used. But I thought that was quite interesting. 28 grand.
I would
Yeah.
have thought it'd be more actually.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, the amount of like
Yeah.
wealthy Metallica fans out
Oh
there
yeah.
grew up to be like huge successes. I would have thought it would get bid up like closer to the 100K range, given
I
how
think it would.
iconic it is.
I think it would now, but in 2008, maybe not so much. I don't know. It's hard
Yeah.
to say. I
Well,
didn't really read up
2008
on.
was the Great Recession, so
True. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I didn't do a really extensive research on the auction, but I just read that it was 28,000, which I think is wow. Oh, so
Yeah, that was
someone,
a bad time. So yeah, the economy it was a disaster all across the world. So yeah.
yeah.
That's true.
But I mean, Lars did say that this album does best represent the content of the song. So you guys are right. Basically,
Yeah,
every kind of thematic part of the song of the songs are actually in the album cover. So I guess
absolutely.
it makes it a really complete piece of work for what it is. I like it, but I've always sort of in the middle. I like it a lot, and I still like Lady Justice. I don't know. I I guess for me with Lady Justice, I like the fact that she comes crumbling down at the end of the show. I just thought that was so.
Oh yeah, me
When
too. I love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, when you're a kid and it's like, oh, you're just like everything. It just comes crumbling down. I thought it was so clever. It was just I don't know.
Well, I went home from that show and I was like, and the head of Lady Justice hit Lars's drum set, and that wasn't supposed to happen, even though it did. But I was like, oh, this is great.
Yeah, I know it's awesome. I mean, I grew up as a Maiden fan too, so I was always enthralled with their stage shows. When this happened for Justice for All, I was like, wow, holy! It was amazing.
And I remember in that show, that was the first time I saw Metallica in Halifax. It was really cool. When they broke into Last Caress, and like they wanted everybody to rush the stage, and you just saw people jumping over the hockey boards and taking off. It was so cool, man. It was like, oh yeah, it was like war was on. This was awesome.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
that
for
was a
sure.
great show. And I mean,
Yeah,
not to take it off Metallica, but one of the things that also made it pretty incredible
it's
was
Queen.
having like
Queen's right.
Queensryche
Yeah,
open when Jeff's voice was still in like
Oh
Prime.
perfect
Yeah.
form, right? When he did Queen of the Reich, I mean,
yeah,
that song was almost as good as everything Metallica did that night.
yeah.
I'm a big fan of that first EP, so.
And what was great too, they toured with. I mean, that was one of the biggest. One of their biggest albums, if not their biggest album. I mean, they
Yeah, it
toured
was their
for
biggest album.
Operation Mindcrime. It was
Yeah.
Yeah,
wicked.
yeah.
Yeah, I remember I was at Maple Leaf Gardens. I was on the floor, six rows back. So I mean, I got the full brunt of it. And I swear, when Queensryche started playing, my ears were like already like
Oh yeah,
it was so loud and intense, and his voice, woo, wow,
Yeah.
it's fantastic. I thought they were actually louder than Metallica, to be honest.
oh, in parts, yeah,
I thought they were actually louder than Metallica. Metallica was great. I won't kid you, it was a great show. But when they came on, it was like boom. They sounded so great. They sounded tight. They sounded great live, and they put on an amazing show. So both bands, but I mean, it was a good choice for an opening act, I thought.
Yep.
But cool. All right, so before we start on the album itself, we'll just do a very brief bio because we all know this, like that backwards and forwards. But Master was released on March 3rd, 1986. So as I mentioned earlier, it is the 39th anniversary of the album. It is album number 3, so it's their breakout album for the most part. And obviously, most fans and critics will say this is the greatest, whopper or whatever thrash metal album of all times. You can't argue that. It peaked at number 27 on the Billboard 200 charts. Again, the only single, as we were talking about, is Master of Puppets. Again, what can you say? It's widely influential. The songs here on this album are more complex, they're technical. The lyrics are fantastic. I know Billy was mentioning that. Like, this is a very strong lyrical content for the band, and the music is what people love, and still to this very day. So yeah, it's fantastic. It's a fantastic album. And I also, one other little tidbit I saw is that they didn't drink while they went to the studio. When they went to Copenhagen, they did not touch a bit of alcohol. They stayed sober the whole time. So obviously they were on a mission. They were on a mission to prove something. And I thought that was kind of interesting. And when they did bring the demos, they actually had 2 completed songs. Orion and The Thing That Shouldn't Be were actually completed when they brought that to Fleming to work on. So I thought that was quite interesting. But
cool.
Stay sober and then destroy. So they were on a mission. Destroy. Yeah. Go out there with the music and destroy. So we'll start with the opening song, which I'm pretty sure both you guys have the same opinion I do, that this is one of the greatest thrash metal songs opening any album ever. And this is Battery. And Jim, lead us off.
Oh, I mean, that this song's very similar to a couple of songs. Like, it's kind of, has a bit of a fight fire with fire kind of vibe from Ride the Lightning. And I think it kind of reminds me of a bit of Blackened as well, a little bit, like
Yeah.
just the kind of makeup of the song. But that riff is phenomenal. And the song itself is about the thrash metal movement in San Francisco. And it's a bit of a slap, I think, with against the glam metal scene that was happening in LA at the time. So they kind of, they have some lyrics in there like battery is found in me. It's like, I find it just a wicked track. What a way to start it off. I remember the first time I put it on, and I just, that sort of classical sound that comes in, and then it just, that riff that just backs up the whole rest of the song. I mean, it's just phenomenal. And I think this was, I think they eventually, I think they eventually maybe released it as a later single, way later down the road. But
they could have.
It's just phenomenal track, and one of my favorite songs. I mean, there's not a bad song on this album, but what a way to start it off, and I absolutely love it.
It's funny that what you just said, Jim, about the lyrics, because lyrically the song's about violence and perpetuating the idea of assault and battery. But I guess you could apply that kind of thought to, like, oh, maybe they hate glam and they hate every other form of metal, and we're out to destroy it all. So that kind of makes sense in a lot of ways. Billy, so what are your thoughts on the battery?
Yeah, no, I mean, I love it. Like it's a masterpiece, a pure adrenaline rush. And I'll say it's the second best opening song of all time. Because I'm gonna go to Slayer, Rain and Blood for that one. But this is a close second. And I would say the same thing with the last song. It would be the second best last song ever done. Also going back to Rain and Blood. But yeah, no, I think it's great. Like, again, we mentioned it with like the intro kind of with Cliff, and kind of, it opens with that acoustic electric, like, nice intro, which has a classical component to it. I mean, just the riffs on the song. I mean, James is such a good rhythm guitar player, right? All these songs, and then you've got, like, Cliff on the bass. Like, the rhythm is just constantly driving in every one of these songs. Like, and unlike any other band does, right? They have that makes them so unique, the way, like, that propelling, like, rhythm section, and that's, like, kudos to the three, right? Like Lars and Cliff and James, right? Like, I mean, Kirk is more of the lead. But speaking of leads, the lead works great. Like, I wish Kirk was still playing like this today. And, that solo at 3:20 is just crazy. I mean, even this song, like, at around like 2:50, it slows down. There's like some nice, like, slower section. You can hear Cliff's bass work there. Really cool. 3:50, like, it gets really fast again. Like, and I'm gonna say it now, like, I love James' voice, right? He doesn't yell, he doesn't shout, he's singing. I love that style, right? And it just makes the song so memorable, I think. And like, I agree with you, Jim. Like, I think it is like a throwback to the San Fran area. Like, what I had read was the band, like, in San Fran, the main metal club they always played was called the old Waldorf, and it was on Battery Street, and that's where they named the song after the street that the club was on. So I don't know, but if that's 100% true, but I've read that a few times, that's where the song title comes from.
And the family is the group, like the family is found in me. That would be like battery is like the family of the thrash metal movement that was going on at the time.
Yeah, makes sense.
Keep in mind, though, that James didn't have a family growing up, right? Like,
true,
like, so I think a lot of that was reflected in his lyrics. Like, he didn't get along with his parents, and he was pretty much, like, I think he was, like, not homeless, but he was pretty much drifting around in his teenager. So
yeah, no, he was.
It makes sense. That makes sense that you would write lyrics that reflect that. But I think it's a song that speaks to a generation of angry kids. That's my honest opinion, because I was an angry teenager. So in that song, when I heard it, it's just, it was there. It was in your brain, and you never forgot that song.
Yeah.
You never forgot that song. Okay, so we'll go to the big one, the only single on the album, Master of Puppets, the title track. And Billy, what's your thoughts on this?
You know, it's interesting, right? Like just preparing for the podcast, like sitting down and looking at the album. I never realized this song is like over 8.5 minutes long.
Yeah.
Right, for all the decades I've been playing it. Again, a testament to the songwriting.
Well,
It
it's not
never
boring,
sounds
dude.
repetitive. It never sounds boring.
Yeah,
The 8.5 minutes fly by, like to this day, right? Like,
yeah.
what did you say, Ken? It's 38 years or 39 years old.
39 years.
So yeah, we've been listening to it for 39 years, and this song is as fresh now
As it did back
as it
then,
was
yes.
back then. But yeah, and
Absolutely.
this goes back to my point about James, like, you know, like singing, right? Like, I mean, it's just everything he does is like a vocal hook, like in my mind. I think it's great, like, you know, that iconic riff, right? Like the main riff of Master of Puppets. I mean, it's probably the most known riff in heavy metal, certainly thrash, that's for sure. But yeah, then I like kind of, well, not the middle, like about 3.5, you kind of
Mhm.
get that deeper ominous voice who's shouting master, and it's like a fade out of master, and then you get like a nice, like, you know, beautiful melodical section, right?
Mhm.
That's totally
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got
um
it. Yeah.
yeah, then it gets super heavy again, you know, at 5 minutes, and great guitar. Yeah, it's just everything is fantastic. And then it kind of all ends with that evil laugh. Yeah, like I mean, this and Battery, right? You think about being a kid, you know, whether it's today or back when we were young, and you're sitting there watching a band. I mean, perfect sing along, right? The master, or the
Yeah, yeah,
Battery, right? Like
yeah,
it's
yeah,
just,
yeah.
again, back to the songs, the songwriting. You just, it's perfection. It's just so memorable, and you can't help but sing along with that. Yeah, it's a classic.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, basically, the whole song's about cocaine addiction,
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
fact that you're being manipulated by hidden forces. In this case, it's the drug addiction that you're being controlled by. But I think it's a very clever song. When I was younger, I always thought it reminded me of. I thought they were referring to the idea of war, but that's but I realized years later it's not. But it is a very bombastic song. Like the riffs are incredible. It's it's so melodic with the solo, and in the middle with James, like because he has the middle solo. It's fantastic. I think it's an amazing song too. What do you think, Jim?
Well, I read that it's interesting because Dave Mustaine has said that Lars wrote the opening riff while
Right,
Dave was still in the band, so they had this in their sort of their backpack for
Hmm.
many years.
right.
You know, it's pretty cool. The down picking during the instrumental parts. I mean, that's a big use of something that was really not being done at the time. So I really thought that was awesome. I mean, everything you guys have said. I mean, this song is just and you know what, Billy, you brought up the 8 minutes. I don't think I realized that either. And when we were talking about singles, I'm like, well, yeah, they can play this on the radio. Come on. And it's like, I'm thinking to myself, no, it's 8 minutes long now. Like, shit, that's really long. I mean, but oh, it just flies by. And they do borrow like a riff in the song from David Bowie's Andy Warhol. I
Yeah,
read that
that's right.
because Kirk and Cliff are big Bowie
Boy
fans.
fans, yes.
Yeah, so that's kind of neat. But I mean, I just think this is probably one of the most recognizable Metallica songs, and I think the band was blown away when they put it in Stranger Things, and I
Mhm.
mean, they probably thought, we'll just whatever. And according to what I heard, is I don't even think they charged for it. I think I mean,
Yeah.
Christ, what?
They asked
Well, they
permission,
just
and then Metallica gave it to him.
Yeah, and they
yeah,
just,
that's
I
cool.
mean, it sold what, 1 million copies in the first
Yep.
48 hours that it aired. I think.
Well, it's not like they need the money, Jim. I mean,
No.
like, they don't like they can afford to be cool about that kind of shit.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe they're starting to realize that a younger generation is starting to pick up on this stuff now, like even though it's
Yeah.
30 years old.
Oh,
So I
yeah.
think it's great that they didn't like, we want this X amount of money. They didn't want to be cheap whores about it, kind of
Yeah.
thing. So I think
I think
that's
that's so cool. And you know what? I love the fact there's parts of me that loves. I get goosebumps just talking about it now. About the time I first hear Metallica, and the first time I heard this album, and the first time I heard the other albums, and I wish I could have that feeling over and over and over, that euphoric feeling of what is this? I mean, nowadays you get little bits of it, but not like this. I mean, this was, you first heard Kill 'Em All. I heard it within the first year it was released. I remember buying the tape in the discount bin, and I was like, "This is awesome!" And I didn't even really know what the band looked like. And then Ride the Lightning come out, and then this just comes out, and just like it just takes right off. And man, it's just that feeling, that nostalgic feeling of having these best albums played for the first time, and you're just sitting there and you're discovering it for the first time. And I think it would be so cool for anybody who's watching Stranger Things or whatever, and they hear it, and then they just go back and they have that feeling nowadays of holy shit, and going back and going through their discography backwards would be so cool. But it's just lightning in a bottle.
Yep, I would agree. No
Yeah.
argument for me about that. All right, so song number 3 is pretty much one of my favorite songs on the album, The Thing That Should Not Be.
My favorite.
Yeah, it's obviously because of the Lovecraft connections, because they're there's the whole point about Cthulhu, the Cthulhu mythos, which is taken. There's a reference also from the Shadow over Innsmouth, which is a Lovecraft story in one of the novels. So I think it's great. I know Burton doesn't get any songwriting credits, but he was the one who always had like a folded up paperback copy in his back pocket of his jeans, because he was such a huge fan of Lovecraft, which is kind of funny. But this song is fantastic. I can only tell you that for me, like you get the slow, creepy tone at the start, then those riffs hit, and the song takes off. And I think this is one of James's best songs vocally for me on this one. I really like it. The bass is incredible. It's heavy. It's right up there in the mix. It's kind of leading the charge in a lot of ways. And I also love the lyrics. I just love how James sings like fearless wretch, insanity. He watches lurking beneath the sea, because the whole point of the song is that Cthulhu is a god who's asleep under the sea, and the fear is once he awakens and rises from the waters, chaos and madness is going to follow. So I love the fact that they threw all that into the song. It's so great. It's one of my favorite songs, and I know they sort of kind of repeat the song on Hardwired with what's the name of that song? 4th song on the album.
Moth into Flame?
No, Dream No More.
Dream No More, yeah.
Which is basically it's kind of a repeat of this, because it's the same thing. They're talking about Cthulhu under the waters. I love this song way better than that one, but anyways, yeah. So it's such a great song, and Kirk's solo. I love that 340 mark, 340 mark with the solo. Wow, whew, what a great song. What do you think, Jim?
It's my favorite song on the album. One of my top 5 Metallica songs all time. I love it. It reminds me, and it's funny because I'm going to make a comparison here, but it's way off base, but I love it because it has sort of, I mean, you talk about it more of a lyrical point. I'm thinking in my mind, I'm comparing it to Synchronicity or Synchronicity 2 from The Police, where it has the Loch Ness Monster crawling up from the lake, and it's a poppy song. So the songs aren't the same musically or anything like that, but the lyrics bring me back to that when I first heard that. I think it was Synchronicity 2, where the creature's coming up, and I think it's the Loch Ness Monster, and then it's coming through the cabin door. This reminds me sort of that. It's a full-on horror, the thing that should not be. I love the darkness sound of it. I mean, you hit all the great parts of it musically. And yeah, James is almost chanting to some degree, dead beneath the sea, timeless waves. Yeah, I love it. I mean, it's just
song, yeah.
Exactly. It's just amazing. One of my favorite songs, and one of the most probably underrated songs. I think a lot of Metallica fans really like it, but I know it's probably one skipped over a lot because, I mean, it's slam based between three or four big tracks, you know. But man, this is an underrated gem in my mind, and it is it's my favorite one on the album.
Cool. Billy, how about yourself?
Yeah, no, I wish I could be as enthusiastic. I mean, I love every song on this album, but this one, like
Okay.
it just never clicked with me. Like I actually hate it. Like there's absolutely, other than the solo at 345 or 340, I can kind of point to, like, and it's not that they're doing anything wrong, obviously. It just, that style, like it kind of irritates me. Like again, it's a personal thing. Like I knew I was going to be in the minority. Everybody loves this song, but I honestly like dislike everything about it. Like, and I don't know, it just doesn't click with me. But every song on this album is perfection except for that.
Okay.
No, it's funny because I'm reading online. A lot of people dislike this song. It's what I read.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't read a lot of negative comments.
Yeah. I read kind of a bit of a theme that, and I even got called out when I talked about this online earlier. Somebody said, "Yeah, it's the worst song on the album." I was like, "Oh, okay."
And it's 6.5 minutes, right? Like it's one of those, you know, because this is the only song where it actually gets repetitive. Like they kind of they go back to the slow and the heavy chug so many times, it kind of gets repetitive for me. But yeah, I don't know. It just who knows why? It just never clicked in my brain.
For you, it's the song that should not be.
Yeah.
That's all right, Billy. Everybody has
I know.
Take on a song, like, you know.
I mean, this album is a 12 out of 10 for me, but
I mean,
and to be honest, like I've said, Justice is probably my favorite album. A big reason why Justice comes out over this is that song for me.
Okay, fair enough. That's fair. All right, so the next big song, which is not a ballad, but it kind of has feels like a ballad, but done in their kind of way. Welcome Home Sanitarium, and Billy, lead us off with this.
Yeah, so I like this one. Like I agree, it's probably the closest thing. It has like ballad components for sure.
Right.
But you know, like, and even like though I was negative on the previous song and Welcome Home Sanitarium provides like you know, and the instrumental, like great diversity to the album. Like if they were all like Battery, like this album wouldn't be nearly as memorable. So yeah, kudos to that. But yeah, here we get like another slow musical intro. Like Kirk at the beginning does I think it's Kirk, like an emotionally like powerful kind of solo. Like James, like when his vocals finally come in after the intro, like they're very melodic but haunting. Like I think I mean, kudos to him. He's a thrash singer and he's got some like really nice vocal parts in here, so that's cool. Lots of great tempo changes all over the place. Like it's just great. Like and it provides a diversity with all the much faster songs. And and then as I said, I wasn't a big fan of The Thing That Should Not Be, but that was much heavier and slower. Then we get into like a beautiful track, Welcome Home. Like we haven't talked about it, but just the song placement on this album is near perfection. Everything comes, and then you throw the instrumental in like right before you end up going to Damage Incorporated, and it's after Leper. Like everything's perfect in terms of song order. So yeah, I'm a big fan of this track.
Well, for us old guys who collect albums and vinyl and CDs, I mean, technically this is the last song of side A before the side B. So we would know that, but most people today, because they stream shit, they don't care about this kind of crap. But what you just said, Billy, makes perfect sense. Side A ends with a good song before we get to side B, which starts with another good song. But we'll get to that in a second. The one thing I wanted to say about this song, besides the fact that they use Ken Kesey's "One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest" as their inspiration for the lyrics, which is great, and that's one of my favorite Jack Nicholson movies of all time. So I think that's kind of great. But I like the fact that the song has like clean guitars, at the start for the verses, and then it switches to distorted guitars for the chorus. So I think that's kind of interesting. So it's a kind of an interesting hook. Maybe it's a good balance between the creepy and the menacing and the clean, but it's great. It's really really good. I think this is a fantastic song too. And what do you think, Jim?
Oh, it's amazing. I mean, probably like, you've got more of a ballady thing like for Fade to Black off of the second album. And then this kind of always made me feel like it was more of a ballady type. But I mean, the lyrics on it, it starts off with "Welcome to where time stands still. No one leaves and no one will."
Yeah.
Just labeled mentally deranged. I mean, that sort of, I love the darkness and the darkness of the lyrics with it and the slower, but it is, I mean, it's just so good. And then when it just leave me alone and it kind of takes off. And I mean, the song has pretty much everything that you want
Yeah.
in this album. And it's such a bright spot on the album. It's, you're leaving, you've got such a good side A, and then you're heading into side B, and it's just phenomenal. I mean, musically, you've already talked about it, but it's one of my favorites on the album, and I like the eerie, and I don't even say it's necessarily slow, but the dark and slowness of it mixed with the fast. I mean, it's genius is what it is, and the lyrics, the writing is phenomenal. With all these songs, the writing is pretty phenomenal.
Yeah. Well, I think it like the slow part, or at least the creepy part, and then you get to 340 when the first tempo change hits, because you're hearing the song and you're like, why isn't this fast? Why is there speedy, chuggy guitars? And then you get it, and it's like, wow. I like the way it's kind of wrapped in the song. So like halfway through, you get the chugging, and then you get the solo at like 426, which just adds on to as like a cherry on top. But it's it's a really good song, and there's no doubt in my mind it's one of the top songs on the album. But so as I mentioned, like the side A, side B. So we're going to side B. We start off with Disposable Heroes, which is another song that I think is a massive track. Like it's got the massive gung gung chugging all the way through. It's got hyper intensity, and the tempo change is amazing. The chorus is awesome. I love the chorus in this.
Yeah.
And Lars on the drumming, like he controls that rhythm all the way through. Wow, it's such a great song. What do you think there? We'll start with you, Billy. What do you think of it?
Yeah, no, this is one of my one of my favorites. Yeah, it's a banger. Like it's a great track. Rips out of the gate. Like I think you made a good point. I think this is Lars' best drumming.
Yeah.
Like,
that's what I think.
Has like a lot of interesting fills. He's not just holding the beat. He's got some interesting fills and some surprises. So that's really kind of cool. Again, James is great. I mean, yes, I think you already said it. Killer chorus. Like I love it. Like James is like, you will do what I say, and then the gang vocals are shouting back to the front. Like another great, you cannot sing along with the damn chorus, right? Again, back to the songwriting. Like I think, which I love, why I love this, it's probably musically the most technical and complex perhaps on the album. Like I think this most signals what was coming on Justice. I mean, this thing's almost 9 minutes. So yeah, it's everything I love about the band, all in this one song. And it's an aggressive, like all out track, but there's still plenty of like pacing changes that slow it down or that accelerate it. Again, keeping an 8.5 minute song engaging and interesting from beginning to end. So yeah, I love it. Like a huge fan.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it's basically an anti-war song, so it's like obviously it's pretty clear the intentions of what they're trying to say here. But it's great. And Jim, any other thoughts you want to add to it?
Well, it takes you on a journey. I mean, everybody knows this song, but it takes you on a journey. Like it starts off, and then like in the middle of it, you've got like barking of machine gun fire, does nothing for me now, sounding of the clock that ticks, get used to it somehow. So he's come out of war. he's now trying to assimilate to, but he's obviously has a lot of PTSD and trying to figure out life. And then the ending's probably, I mean, the chorus and that, just, why am I dying? Kill, have no fear. I mean, that's you being in the crowd, just chanting that is so cool. But I love the ending, like life planned out before my birth, nothing could I say, had no chance to be myself, molded by day by day. And then the last full lyrics of the songs besides is left to die with only friend, alone I clench my gun. So it kind of takes you on a lyrical journey through the song of what this person's going through. And I think that's pretty cool. But oh yeah, I mean, I was born for Diane, and it's just like, and then it takes off. I mean, the song, it's just an absolute masterpiece. Another one. And I mean, like even to Billy's point with the thing that should not be, you've got, what is this? What are we on? Song 6?
Five.
Song five. And you got 4 massive songs. I mean, I like the thing that should not be, but these are just massive songs. And by today's standards would all be top singles, released. Just phenomenal.
Yeah, I would agree. And then we're going to another great song, Leper Messiah, which I don't know if I know you mentioned this earlier, Jim, about the whole their love of David Bowie. Well, the title of the song is taken from Ziggy Stardust, which is interesting. So obviously their love for Bowie is pretty much, you can see it here. I love this song too. It's all about riffs. There's like a lot of riffs. The whole song's about this attack on the hypocrisy of televangelism, which I guess at the time in the 80s was a really big topical theme for a lot of metal bands and thrash bands. So it's great. I think this is another fantastic song. I love how Lars, like, he teases up at the start with the 1, 2, 3, and then it just goes heavy as fuck, and it's insane. It's just like the tempo shift goes, it just flies, and it just blows your mind, and then it gets relentless. The chugs that follow, and then that solo, whoa, such a great song. And what do you think, Jim?
Oh man, I mean, the lyrics on this song are actually quite comically real, especially for a TV evangelist. Circus comes to town, you're playing the lead clown, please spreading his disease, living by his story. And it's just so cool. Like they just semi money, semi green, heaven you will meet, make your contribution and you'll get a better seat. I mean, it's just it's genius. I mean, the writing is just phenomenal. And it's like, and I mean, what another great song, and probably a little bit more underrated. I think every song on this album is kick ass, but and this is just so good, and such a good swipe of what was going on at the time with the height of the TV evangelist, people getting ripped off their money. Tammy Faye Baker and Jimmy Swaggart and all those people living fat off of everybody's money, and just living a life of we talk about heavy metal and evil and everything, but is there anything more true evil than that? Using supposedly God's name and raping everybody of their money. I mean, it's just, anyways, I won't get into that. This is such a cool song, and the writing again is just so cool. I mean, this is what Metallica needs to do nowadays. I know, and I'm gonna get everybody's gonna, well, he can't sing like that. It doesn't matter. Just get writing like this again. And anyways, I'm off my soapbox.
I hear you, Billy. What's your thoughts on Leper Messiah?
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same way. I think you guys kind of hit on it all. Maybe 2 points. I think James, I really like his singing. Like, probably the most aggressive part of the song kind of comes in around 4.5 minutes to 4:45, and James is probably singing the fastest he does on the entire album in this section. So that's pretty cool. I like that. Excuse me. And then the only other thing I'd add is I kind of like the ending, right? Like it comes to a complete false ending. Like, you think it's going to be done, and then that like mean riff and Lars comes back, and then you got about 15 more seconds. But you would bet your life the song's done before the final return. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that works for me too. I noted that in my notes as well. I like that as well. It's great song overall. So number 7 is the huge song. I mean, it's an instrumental, but obviously there's like connections to Cliff on it. But Orion. So we'll start with you, Billy. What do you think?
Yeah, no, it's a great instrumental. Again, like a whole like different gear and variety and diversity for the album. So yeah, and this kind of goes back to Cliff's classical influences, and
Yeah,
we talked about that. You can see it here. I mean, musically, they're in excellent form. I kind of view it, sort of in three parts, right? Like for me, the first part's like the first like 3 minutes and 50 seconds. It's kind of like a first act. It's very melodic.
Mhm.
The
yeah,
tension
I can see
builds
that.
again,
Yeah,
very much like an orchestral piece would
Yeah.
do. Uh, then you kind of got that second section where it slows to almost a near end, and then Cliff's like beautiful bass lines take over. It's just like emotionally powerful. That brings you close to 7 minutes, and
yeah,
then the final that final section is sort of the classical music crescendo where we get probably the most aggressive section of the song. It's heavier, it's faster. There's some good chugging guitar, and then it kind of goes to a quiet fade out. But yeah, again, perfect positioning right after the song we just talked about and the song that's to come. Yeah, it's great. I like it.
you know what I like about the song? It's not bloated.
No.
Every part of the song has a point
Yeah.
and a meaning, and it all, as you mentioned, like I guess if you're looking at it from a segmented three parts, it works. It's all encompassing, and it works for that. And I that's what I love about it. You
And it's
know,
8.5 minutes, and you feel
Yes.
that way. So that's a
but it doesn't
testament
feel like 8.5
to
minutes.
the writing. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And like, I mean, it pays homage to the constellation of Orion, which is
Yeah.
great. There's, I guess for me, I get this feeling of like the surrounding the vastness of space,
Hmm.
and you get that here, especially I think in the middle section with Burton with the bass lines in there, and I love that part. It's so great. It's yeah, it's a fantastic song. And Jim, you have anything to add to this?
Oh yeah, like I mean, it's got that spacey kind of. It's got like I agree with Billy. I never thought of it that way. That there's like three acts to it, and I think part of it is really kind of there's a little bit of thrashy prog in there, even a bit of a spacey, and that's why I'm glad they called it Orion. I mean, Cliff did most of the writing for this for
Yeah,
the
that's
music for
right.
this song, even though they all I think got a writing credit on it, but
Yeah.
he did the majority of it, and it just I mean it's just a masterpiece when it comes to the instrumental masterpiece for them. But I love the fact it's almost got kind of a parts of it like the act one, the act two, and the act three. I think in like act two, it kind of has a bit of a 70s kind of sound to it, and more technical. I really like it, and I think and I can't believe the song is over 8 minutes long. I've never really paid attention to the times on this until now, and I'm like, oh, geez, that's pretty long. That's really long, and but it never feels like that when I'm listening to it, and that
No,
is.
no.
I mean, it takes you on that musical journey, but I really like the description of it being sort of a 3 act piece, and that's exactly what I get out of it. Best description ever.
I love the gong before
Yeah,
you get like dome, and it's
yeah,
just like I think that's fantastic. That little gong is so great right at that point before you get to the Burton segment with the bass, and it's fantastic. It's like I just love that for some reason. And I know Lars has been quoted as he's called this song 9 minutes of ever changing, mind provoking, weird, and wonderfulness is what he terms the song as, which is kind of a cool way to look at the song. But
well, as much as I know they don't like playing it live
yeah,
necessarily, but they do love the fact it's got Cliff's stamp all over it.
well, I
Like
think that's why they don't like to play it
yeah,
live,
yeah,
because
exactly.
it
Yeah,
pains, it reminds them too much of Cliff, which
yeah.
I get that. I mean,
Same here.
it's, I mean, his death is years ago, but I mean, I guess they would still dredge up some kind of shitty memories for you
Yeah.
with your fallen comrade. But yeah, it's a great song for sure. So now we get to the final song, Damage Incorporated, the banger, the probably maybe one of the fastest Metallica songs ever. I would think, for me personally. Jim, I know you're a big proponent for opening and closing songs. What do you think?
Oh, it's this is one of the best opening. Like I think Billy said, the second best opening. I agree. It's one of the top ones for me. And then you have the closing. You just end on a complete face smasher. And what a way to call Damage Incorporated. So, and it's got like, fuck it all and fucking no regrets. I love the just the speed and the atmospherical punch to this thing. It ends it. And you know what? And the biggest thing I love about this album, it's only 8 songs long.
That's right.
Like, my God, the stuff they've released since is just they go on forever with these big long albums. This is 66.42 minutes, I think. I know 54.52
Yeah, it's
of
over an
the
hour.
actual album. So 55 minutes long. So it's fairly long. But compared to today's standards of what they've been putting out the last few albums, this just gets to the point. The songs don't feel that long. There's no bloat on this whatsoever. And, less is definitely more. And I mean, if I could think of anything that would be a close negative to this album, which for me, like Billy says, it's a 12 out of 10. I agree with that. Would be I want more songs on this, because in this vein of music, I would have wanted to hear so much more. But I'm really glad it's 8 songs. And yeah, the ending, it bookends a perfect album in my mind. Just a complete chaos at the end, and I love it.
Well, you know what's funny? I think the two things that are prevalent here for me is that one, they're on a mission. That's clear from the start. They had a purpose for this album, and
Yeah,
it's seen in the songs. Secondly, they're still writing music for, for a company. Like this is Elektra, the
yeah.
record. So I mean, like there is some kind of semblance of order. It's not like nowadays where they can write bloated songs because they don't have to fucking answer to anybody.
No, exactly.
They're kings. They're the kings. They can do what the fuck they want. So whether we like that, but you won't get that here in 1986. You're getting
It's a good
a
point.
masterful record, right? So that's I think that's strong.
What it feels like now, it feels like they throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks. And
Yeah,
that
that
really
yeah,
pisses me
exactly.
off. But anyways,
Yeah,
you
that's a
know,
good point.
but
But
that's a
well,
great point. They didn't have the money, endless money and
no.
time and push for what they wanted to do. They had to kind of stick to a certain, yeah.
Before I go to Billy, I'll just say this: like thematically, what I feel the song is like about cause and effect. So like when James whispers "Damage
Yeah.
Incorporated," and then it's immediately followed by an explosive riff. I love that. The song has this cause and effect for me, even though it's the tempo is insane and it doesn't stop and it's on overdrive all the way through. But this is like a very nihilistic song, I think. And so, Billy, you'll have the final word on the song. What do you think of Damage Incorporated?
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with you guys. Like, you guys hit on a lot of the points, but I would just sort of highlight it kind of coming off of Orion.
Mhm.
This actually has like a nice slow intro
Yes.
that kind of works, like coming after that, and it helps kind of build the tension, and it lasts for like almost a minute, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
That
Yeah,
slow
yeah.
intro, right? Then all hell breaks loose, right? And
Minute
I'm
19.
sure. Sorry, what did you say, Ken?
A minute 19 is when the guitar starts. So
Yeah, the crunching guitars jump in, and yeah, I mean, you guys said it. It's so fast. I mean, I'm sure the band was playing at the very edge of their capabilities here
yeah.
at that time, right? Just how fast it was. Like, James, like the vocals sound great, but I love that. Like, it has that like when he does danger incorporated in the chorus, he
Yeah.
kind of whispers it.
Yes,
You
yes.
know what I mean? Like it's just very cool, like approach to do that. It's so memorable. I like it, and yeah. And then you guys hit on everything else. Great album. I mean, it's funny in this is like I don't know, probably like 87, 88,
Mhm.
89. My jean jacket I wore had the Damage Incorporated like giant like back
Nice.
patch on my jacket. I wore that jacket for like 3 years.
Nice.
But yeah, great ending song.
Yeah, I like it. Like the cause and effect. That's what I get out
Mhm.
of the song. You know, the whole I'm gonna whisper, and then oh, here comes the riffs. Such a great song. It's a great song to close the album for sure. No doubt in my mind. I guess you can argue that yeah, Rain and Blood may be number one for opening and closer, and this is number two. I think they're both pretty equal to me. I do agree that Rain and Blood is probably one of the greatest closing songs ever. I don't think there's any question about that. That song is fucking fantastic, and the opening song too. But yeah, two good albums with two good opening and closing songs for sure.
Yeah.
So, do you guys have any final thoughts on this before we move into the final segment of our podcast?
I was just going to ask, have you guys heard, we talk about this band sometimes, like Dream Theater
Mhm.
actually did like a live version
Yes.
of this album.
Yes.
Like I own a copy. I tried to find it to show it, but it's
Okay.
in my unorganized CD collection. So after a half hour of searching, I gave up. But it's pretty cool, right? Like, I mean, Dream Theater, we're doing like 2 nights in Spain. You know, the first night they did like all their stuff. And then on that second night, they went and did like the complete album in full and in order. Like it's pretty cool. I don't know if you guys heard it. Like,
Yep.
No, I don't think I have.
I have.
like,
Oh, you
yeah, like
have? Okay,
I
cool.
think where it really like I just find James LaBrie stands out like a sore thumb.
Yeah.
Like on this, he just doesn't like that's not his voice, but
No, he's not. He's not a thrash singer for sure.
yeah, but I mean, musically, I think it's great. Like, you know, they didn't turn the 8 minute songs into 16-minute songs, like you think. So that's good. But you know, there is a lot of like unique little tweaks, I guess, musically, and you know, the guitars and they all sound different, and you know, John Myung's bass is different, but it's a cool like you know a side piece if you're a Dream Theater fan.
Yeah. I thought it was pretty
Cool.
good, and I love the fact that like Dream Theater is our fans, and I love the fact that they're fans, and they're also like big Rush fans too. So
Yeah.
like there's that it's just so cool, and yeah, it's a little different, and it's it's not something I'd throw on often, but it is pretty cool. I thought it was pretty neat, and if you're gonna do it, do the whole thing.
I mean,
Yeah, that makes sense.
it'll never like replace the original.
No.
That's for sure, but it's cool.
Cool. All right. Okay, so our last segment, we were thinking about picking post thrash Metallica, our favorite one. But I'm kind of thinking what we should just do is you can talk about what album you like the most. But I just think we can do an overall roundtable talk about the modern era Metallica and why it doesn't hold up to what we're talking about with Master. So Jim, I know you mentioned that you liked Hardwired. So we'll
Mhm.
start with you, Jim. Well, just give me your thoughts. Like,
Well, I
what
mean,
do you think of it?
Hardwire, when did that come out? 2016.
Yeah,
It's a pretty good album, but like
yeah.
between Hardwire and Death Magnetic, I think that there's one really solid album between the two, in my opinion. I mean, the first side, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 songs that are pretty good, including Halo on Fire is pretty good.
Yeah, I
But
like
then on
that
the
song.
second side, I only like Spit Out the Bone. The rest of it is just very
Average.
kind
Yeah,
of rehashed. And I mean, we're
yeah.
looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 12 songs on this album. I could easily cut 4 or 5 off this, and
I
I think if
agree.
it was a 7, I'd even give it an 8 song album if you wanted to put a dud on there, in my mind. But it's not bad. I thought it had a little bit of balls to it. I thought it was pretty good. So this would be my pick afterwards. I mean, I'm not keen on the Load and Reload. I own them. I see what they did, but I just I hate the fact they changed the logo and
Oh
they
yeah, yeah. I
changed so
know.
much. And then Saint Anger was terrible. And I don't even consider the one there. The what was the one he did with Lou Reed? The
Oh fuck
Lulu.
no.
I don't even
Lulu,
consider
that's
that in my
awful.
mind.
That's
That's on a
terrible. I
Metallica.
haven't. That's an awful album.
Yeah, I don't consider that, but I like this. I mean, I like Death Magnetic too. Um,
Yeah.
and this was supposed to be like with Cyanide and that for me, it was supposed to be a return to old Metallica. I remember when it was released, and And I really like, and I talked about this earlier. That Was Just Your Life's a pretty long one. It's got some good stuff in it, but I don't know. I think a more faster kind of, I like this one a little bit better. That's what I
Well,
think.
I'll say this: if My Apocalypse was every song, I would like the album.
Yeah.
I love that song. That song is such a great kind of. It's some of the vocal, some of the like the lyrics are a little bit cheesy, but they're just trying to, like, oh, we'll give you a thrash song. Here's a thrash song. Da, 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 and away they
Yeah.
go. But if I heard that for the whole album, I probably would like it even more for me. But so, Billy, we'll let you chime in. I know you like Death Magnetic, so go for it.
Yeah, no, we covered the self-titled album. Like I don't like that album.
Yeah.
I hate Load and Reload.
Yeah.
Saint Anger is a complete embarrassment. And then you come to Death Magnetic, you come to Hardwired and 72 Seasons. Like I'll cover those two quickly. I mean, I think the albums are all way too long. The
Yeah.
songwriting's too bloated. There's a lot of cool ideas
Yes.
here
Yes.
and there, but then they'll blow them into like way too long and they get repetitive. And so, yeah, I just I feel it's very similar to what Iron Maiden's doing nowadays. The band
Yes.
can do whatever they want. And the problem is they don't have a producer who's stepping in,
Nope.
or they have a producer, but he has no say uh,
Yeah.
to like rein the band back in. So yeah, not so the last two, okay. But for me, like I'm a big fan of Death Magnetic. I mean, is it the first four? No, but it's the closest you're gonna get to it.
Yeah.
The song, it's everything I love about Master and Justice starts to creep back up here. So a couple of things I'm gonna say. So this has to be considered one of the best comeback albums in history because it
Mhm.
follows Saint Anger,
Yeah.
which
Yeah. Of
was the
course. Of
biggest
course.
disaster. So, like, I think it's pretty amazing the transition they did from Saint Anger to Death Magnetic. I mean, Death Magnetic, you get all the longer songs are back, the full guitar solos are back, the big instrumental, Suicide and Redemption. The songs are more complex,
Yeah.
technical.
Yeah.
Definitely the most thrash oriented the band got in ages. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of great songs on here. I mean, you also the first album with Robert Trujillo in the band, and he
Yeah.
brings, I mean, Jason's great, but Rob brings a lot of interesting playing as well. That's pretty cool, and I think they just needed a kick in the ass, and they had to get away from Bob Rock.
Yes.
Like
Oh,
Death
Bob Rock. Yeah.
Magnetic, Rick Rubin, came in, and
True.
Death Magnetic is slammed, and rightfully so to some degree. The production, and they took out all the lows, and
Yeah.
the whole brick thing that people say on the sound. So yeah, it took a lot of slack for that. But forget that. The actual, which I agree with, but the songs are
Mhm.
pretty damn good on here. I think it's the
Yeah.
best thing they've done, post Justice.
And you know
Yeah.
what, Billy? They only had 10 songs on that album. So, like, and this is the testament to what, like, even Hardwired is a 2 disc regular album
Yeah,
because
yeah,
there's so many, the songs are so long. So, there's only 10 songs on Death Magnetic. And I think, I never thought about that. But yeah, Rick Rubin, this would have been the first album after Bob Rock. They kind of didn't go on with him, which was great.
yeah.
Um, and Rick Rubin, and I remember seeing an interview where he said, I wanted them to be Metallica. And that's true. And I mean, it is a good album. I just, it's just, I don't know. It's just, fuck, I hate their new shit.
Like I bought all those albums after Justice, and I sat there like so disappointed every
Yeah.
time. And putting Death Magnetic on and all those albums I bought pretty much as soon as they came out. Just
Yeah.
hope
Yeah. Same
for the
here.
old Metallica, and I finally got like some signs of it on
Somewhat. Yeah. Yeah.
Death Magnetic, so it just kind of sticks with me. And I love the album cover.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
Yeah. That's a great
I think
cover. Yeah. Yeah.
it's a pretty damn cool album cover.
The band's always been really good with their image or trying to make an interesting cover every time. So this album was like, oh, okay, we'll knock out the park and do that. So it's clever. I agree with you, Billy. Like, I hear lots of Death Magnetic is the album I like too, because I kind of hear elements of like Justice. I hear elements of Master. You hear it, like when you're listening to This Was Just like that opening bit, that kind of melodic, kind of sort of like kind of slow menacing. I think it's a bass. I love it. It's just reminded me. So you get the heartbeat first of all to start, and then you get that kind of callback to Master of Puppets. I mean, I don't know, Jim. You might be maybe the song is a little too long, but I don't mind the song. I think it works for me. Um, but the majority of songs on the album are okay. I mean, I don't know. I mean, Judas Kiss I like a lot. I mean, Unforgiven, Cyanide's good.
Cyanide's.
Yeah,
I like the video for the first song too. It was pretty cool with the the war and that. But I think, I mean, it's still like, I think between the two albums, there's one really, really good album.
I would agree.
I mean, 72 Seasons comes out, and I got to give them credit for keeping that under wraps. Nobody knew they had a new album in the works. Brought out a brand new album cover, which I hated, and then they brought out a brand new song, but it's just every single that was released, I was like waiting to nurse from Metallica's teeth. Like, come on, give me something. And it just kept and I had to try to make myself like it. And it was just like, that's almost an 80-minute album. And, the best song I like on it, if I remember right, I think it's Shadows Follow, which has a bass intro in it. That's the best song I like on it. And I mean, I would, 72 Seasons, I'd give it a 6 out of 10. And that's only because it's Metallica. If this was, I mean, this wouldn't even register. I mean, some of the songs just go on and the first single, Lux Eterna, I just couldn't get into it.
Really? I love that.
I couldn't get into it.
Song too.
What's that, Billy?
I actually like that song too.
Yeah, so do I. Yeah. Well, I'll say this much about 72 Seasons. For me, the one thing I do like is I like the fact that James was kind of going through something. I guess he just went through a divorce. And basically what's happening is that he's putting his heart and soul on the line there. So I like a lot of the lyrical content and I also like his vocals here a lot more than I had in previous albums. Because the biggest knock I have with what's his face, Bob Rock, is he ruined James. He took away, like, basically the thrash vocals disappeared, and you got this kind of crooning style, which I don't think works for James. We're not playing kind of like rockabilly, and that's kind of what I hear a lot of that. It's like why are you singing like that? And I remember Bob Rock saying, "Whoa, I've improved James as a vocalist." No, you have not. You never improved him as a vocalist. You made him worse. But I thought 72 Seasons, at least I felt he went back to what I was hearing in the past, at least in my opinion. I mean, I might be in the minority, but I kind of felt that for me. But, but I agree with you, Jim. I think if you took the 3 albums and took a selection of songs and made one album, yeah, it would be good. You're right about that. You'd be right.
So, what did you think, Billy, of 72 Seasons?
Yeah, no, I same thing. I thought about the previous one. There were cool ideas, and like I liked the first single, so I was pretty excited after hearing that. And then getting the album. I mean, I think what sums it up, I probably played it like 5-6 times when I bought it.
Yeah.
Never come off the shelf since.
Same here.
That's the same thing with Hardwired too.
Yeah.
Now I might be the only person who actually loves the album cover on 72 Seasons. I think it's pretty cool, actually.
I don't like it.
Yeah, I don't mind it. I like the idea of it. The yellow is really like, it just doesn't work for me. But it's personal taste. But their album covers are always cool. I mean, I do like Hardwired. I think that's a cool album cover.
But I will say this, and that is, 72 Seasons had 5 singles released, and it was so mathematical the way they did it. I mean, These guys know how to promote and know how to get, and then with the 2 nights Metallica, the different set lists and stuff, they just, they started with the Snake Pit, and then they started with this and that, and the way they do things is just so smart. I mean, even with like I'm not keen on they're my favorite band of all time, Metallica is, but I want to love their newer stuff, and I just feel like I come up short every time. But I can't argue with the fact that if they came to Halifax, of course I would be there with my tickets in hand and pay $1,000. I wouldn't care. But it's just, oh man, it's just the new stuff. I don't know. And I know everybody, you just want them to go back and sing Fight Fire with Fire.
No, we
No,
don't.
but what I
No,
would
no.
like is on this album of, I don't know how many songs are on this 12, take about 3 off and put maybe a live version we haven't heard of Fight Fire from back in the day, or Motor Breath or something. I just want something.
Well, you know what? If they went out and actually hired like a producer with balls and sat them down and said, dudes, I know you guys are the kings now. You can do what you want, but listen to what I'm going to tell you. And they actually sat down and listened to what they were told. They probably could have a really good album if you trim the fat and trim all the over and self-indulgent crap and just got to the heart of a really good song of what you heard on Master. I think they would be okay. I think they'd be in really good shape today, but because
I think I think they're morphed into more of a hard rock, and
yes,
that's
yes.
where they're at. I mean, I know like James, I've seen a lot of live performances of the last of the tours that have been going on, and I think he's still, I mean, the band is massively talented. It's just, and I know fans like me are like the old school, want to hear this and want it a certain way, but anyways. We'll see for the next album.
The hard rock thing, the one thing I will also say is that you do get a lot of Thin Lizzy kind of harmonies on the new stuff. So they obviously, as they get older, I'm finding that they're letting their influences show on the albums now.
Oh, yeah.
Back in the day, they wouldn't have done that. But now that they're older musicians and they're mellowing out and they're getting, they're winding down the careers, their influences are now, I mean, I can hear that Kirk loves Thin Lizzy. You can hear Phil Lynott. Those harmonies are there, and I don't mind it. But sometimes I find it's a bit too much for me. But what about you, Billy? Do you think that they do have too much of their influences now showing up in the songs?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's. I mean, I don't know. I guess to some degree, I'm kind of like, this is where I guess people will knock people like the three of us who are still living in the first 4 albums, right? Like, I mean, why do I like Death Magnetic so much? Because it sounds like the first 4. Yeah. I mean, I think I mentioned this when we were chatting about this topic before, but I mean, to some degree, they've accomplished all you could ever accomplish with Thrash on the first 4. Anything they do is going to be a derivative of what they already did, which, here, hand up, I want to hear it. Yeah, but I guess them as musicians, right? Like, there's nowhere else to bring the style of thrash we love. I think, like, they're not going to do an industrial album.
No.
I mean, like they've done as much as they can with the genre we love, and anything they do to go back is just a rehash of what we already love. So I don't know. I don't knock the guys, right? Like they're old. I mean, I'm going to see them next month. They're here in Toronto, 2 shows in 3 nights. So I'm quite curious. Like I saw them on the Hardwired tour. I mean, I had a bit of an issue. Like a lot of the songs I'm not a fan of on that tour. So the fact that they're 2 completely different set lists over
that'll be cool.
I think it'll bring in a lot more of the gems I love. So I'm also curious to see how like James holds up, right? Like 2 nights in 3 days, like how's his voice? And yeah, I'm curious, but I don't know. I guess I don't knock them, right? Like, they've done everything. I mean, like I agree with Jim. Like, it would be great if a producer would, but what would they? I mean, Lars and James would say, "What the hell do you know? We're Metallica. Tell us how to play guitar." Right? Like, it's amazing Rick Rubin got away with it, like at that time. But I don't know. So I don't knock them. Like hell, they gave us so much like pleasure.
Yeah.
Those first 4 records, let them do with it whatever the hell they want at this point.
Yeah.
But I wonder if they've got stuff in the vault, like from the old days that some songs that are half done or 3/4 done or done.
Yeah,
Just
I'm
want to
sure.
hear. Yeah.
Well, they have. I know James has mentioned this many times that they don't like to repeat themselves. They don't like to look in the past. They like to look forward. So maybe that explains some of the choices they've made on the modern albums a bit. That they don't want to look in the past. They just want to go forward, which I understand. For me, being an artist myself, I get that. You don't want to repeat yourself. You just want to try something new and you move on. So I get that. So I'm like you, Billy. I don't knock them either. I my only criticism for me is the songs are way too long and they're fucking boring. That's
Oh yeah,
like
I agree, right? But again, I guess they're not writing for us anymore.
no,
So
they're writing for
like,
themselves.
yeah, like, and I gave up, right? Like I know when I hear them, like it's not going to be what I want to hear.
No, no,
So,
but
But yeah,
for
what can you do?
yeah,
but you know what
We're
though?
thankful
I
that we have many young new thrash bands that are coming up that can,
absolutely,
you know,
absolutely,
so
I would agree with that.
but I'm greedy. I want it for me.
Of
I
course,
want
I
them
hear you. So
singing
do
what I
I.
want.
I think we all do. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
I
what
know. I'm
we're
like,
dying to have, but we'll
damn it.
never get that ever again, unfortunately.
Yeah, I know,
You
and
know,
I gotta get, and I do give them hats off. They're my favorite heavy metal band, and hats off to them taking chances.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, I have no issues with that. I'm just greedy, and I want that sound. I want I think more than anything too is I want that feeling back, that essence of Metallica, and I think
yeah.
that's what I feel like I've been slighted. But anyways, I'll eventually get over it. But yes, Billy, and you are right, Ken. There's tons of new thrash bands out there that just absolutely kick ass,
Yeah,
and
yeah, it's
you
great.
know,
Like
yeah,
you can find it elsewhere. You may not find it with Metallica, but you can.
yeah.
Like we've talked about Creator and Destruction. They still carry on the spirit of thrash
And even
And
like a
this year,
band
right?
like
This year
Harlan,
we're gonna get Testament and
right.
Anthrax.
yeah,
You can
That's
even
right.
get the old guys still doing it, right? We gotta wait a couple months, but yeah, there's still plenty to get to see in here.
oh
Oh
yeah.
yeah, I'm excited for the new Testament album. I can't wait to hear it. I
Same
mean,
with
it's
me and Anthrax. I can't
yeah,
wait.
Anthrax too. Yeah, both albums. I mean,
Yeah,
if they're going to be as what they're being sort of, I guess, advertised as, I'm all for it. Bring it on. I want to hear it.
yep.
I totally want to hear that. But
I guess the question is, will eventually Anthrax and Testament turn into Metallica, where they just have done all they could do with thrash, and we're gonna get like totally different styles, but no
maybe
sign of it yet. I mean,
no,
No,
no, no, no, no, no. The
well,
only
especially
album
with Joey singing Journey
yeah.
songs.
Oh well, that's Belladonna's.
I know. I like it though. He does a
He
good
loves.
job.
Yes, yeah, he's really good with singing those kind of songs. He's good.
Yeah,
He can sing really good arena rock songs for sure.
yeah.
He's got the voice for it and he's got the chops. So I don't have a problem with it. But
like
as long as he
speaking of
doesn't bring,
Joey, like Anthrax are at that Aussie,
yep,
Black Sabbath show.
Yes.
Like,
yep,
I think I mentioned to you guys, right? Like Joey was at Wacken last year, and
yeah.
he did an entire tribute to like Black Sabbath. So like he's all set to go on all those songs, right? Like he should jump in there and help them out.
He should. I think he would be great. Why not?
Yeah.
Plus, I think didn't he sing on that DVD of the Big Four where he did the Dio fronted Black Sabbath song?
Yep. Yes, he did.
It's a big hit.
Neon Nights, Die
No,
Young,
sorry, no, the one
Neon
off.
Nights, Mob Rules.
Oh no, the other album.
From Heaven and Hell.
Angels smoking on it.
Heaven
Yeah,
and
the
Hell.
Heaven and Hell.
Heaven and
Did
Hell.
that title track, and he did a great job on it.
But then will Ozzy like that because they're the wrong era?
Who knows? Who the hell knows? But yeah,
I bet you they don't play any of those.
No, they won't.
Era stuff.
I'm sure they won't either.
No.
Right?
Why would they?
Yeah.
It'll all be just like the standard Aussie stuff, most likely.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Which is a shame because some of those two Dio albums are awesome. But
And they should bring like Tony Martin out to do.
Of course,
yeah,
he's still
they
there,
should.
and he can sing. He can do a whole show.
His solo album, last solo album, is fantastic.
Well,
Yeah,
I
I like
like
Tony
most
Martin.
of the albums with him from Black
Oh
Sabbath.
yeah,
Yep, yeah, me
Yeah.
too. Didn't he
Agree.
do
I
Cross
totally
Purposes?
agree.
Yeah,
He did Cross Purposes, right?
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I love that
And
album.
TYR, Cross Purposes, The Eternal Idol.
yeah.
Yeah, Eternal
Idol.
Idol is great too. I love that album as well. Yeah, he's a great vocalist. It's too bad
The
that
Headless Cross, I think he did.
yes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's Cross. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great stuff. Great stuff. All right, guys, that was a really good talk about Metallica.
Yep.
You've heard it from long-standing
Fans.
fans, suffering fans. But that's just how it is. So next week we have another podcast, or episode number 49, which will be right on the cusp of our anniversary of the podcast, because we started March 15th of last year with Creator. And so we're coming up to the 15th of this year, and Jim will be taking the reins on that one. Jim, go ahead with your announcement for the show.
Well, we're going to do like a 180 here and head to Megadeth territory and do So Far, So Good, So What from 1988. Yeah. Coming off of Metallica, we got to have Uncle Dave in there and get some, we got to do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Good contrast too,
Oh, yeah.
Good contrast. Cool. I'm looking forward to that. It'll be a good fun time.
Yeah.
Talking about Mr. Dave and the band and all that shit, and Jeff Young playing guitar in that time. So it'll be good.
Wicked.
Cool. All right, guys. I want to thank you both for coming in and talking about this album. I know we all love it, so it's unanimous for us. It'll always be forever burned in our memories. We'll never forget it, and still listen to it to this day.
Oh, yeah.
I listen to it all the time, so it never gets boring. Songs are great. I totally love it. So with that, we'll sign off, and we'll see you all next week.
Cool.
Good night.
Night.